This is not a drill, everyone. The SchlossRant podcast is back in time for the NFL season 2024. Again, this is not a drill. I got a story to tell, just like the great Biggie Smalls. And no, it has nothing to do with Anthony Mason of the New York Knicks. The return of the SchlossRant. We are back. We are better than ever. We have not been with you since January, right before the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year, but we are back. We are better than ever. We're going to give you the picks. We're going to give you all of the NFL predictions. But of course, what type of a Schloss rant would it be if we did not start with the future and the history of the New York Giants? This Giant team is celebrating their 100th anniversary this season. And I'm kind of disappointed about the fact that this team is going to be absolute garbage. This team is going nowhere. You have Daniel Jones. The future is absolutely bleak. There has been no improvement. Sure, in 2022, they maneuvered around him, got him to run the ball a lot, got him to hand the ball to Saquon Barkley. He's gone. The offensive line has been a problem for about 10 years. Did did Daniel Jones win a playoff game that year? He sure did. You had no choice but to bring him back. There's no doubt about it. There was no Giant fan in America after he threw for 300 yards, ran for over 80 yards in that game that was saying, oh, we got to move on from this guy. The Giants had no choice. They're in this deal now where, they can get out of it at the end of this one. They can try to get a new quarterback. We all saw with the Hard Knocks episode in which they were trying to get up for Drake May, and it just didn't work out. The Patriots weren't willing to budge. But this Giant team is in a heck of a predicament because of the fact that they're in Nowheresville and they don't have a quarterback that they love that they're developing. Just not the case. So with Jones, this is the scenario in which if the answer is not heck yes, it's F no. So if he does not perform this season up to our standards, up to the standard that, quite frankly, he set in that playoff game against the Vikings, in which he could throw for 300 and run for 80, we're not expecting him to do that each and every game, week in and week out. But we've got to see something. You've got weapons now with Neighbors. You've got a situation in which Andrew Thomas, if he plays, he's an effective left tackle. And at a certain point, we can't continue to put the blame on everyone else. Jones has got to get the job done. The future is not bright, though. It's bleak because I don't think he's shown you any sign of being able to do this. Dable has shown you signs that he's been able to coach around him and maneuver in terms of running the ball. But that weapon, Saquon Barkley, is gone. And I haven't been here for a while. But with Saquon Barkley, I can't kill the Giants for not paying him. He's a running back. But the problem is you don't have the quarterback in place, and it's going to be a rough season in terms of what the Giants are going to be able to bring. I'm just being real. I saw that license plate guy, Joe, he put out there, Giants are going to win 9 games. There is no chance in America that this team wins 9 games. None. Could they come close? Maybe. And that's just a testament because of what Daboll's able to bring. And I hate saying maybe, but we'll get back on that because the Giants are going to be a part of the famed under-overs in just a little bit if you stay tuned. But let's continue on. Enough about the Giants. We'll break down all the divisions. We'll give you a Super Bowl pick from each conference. We'll give you a Super Bowl winner. Of course, we'll do the under-overs. This, again, is Schloss Rant episode 66. We have been gone since January of last year, but we are back. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. The Schloss Rant podcast is back. It's Tuesday after Labor Day in 2024. Now, a tradition unlike any others. No, it's not the Masters. No, it's not a college football tailgate down at Ole Miss. It is the top 5 NFL players from the Schloss Rant podcast. Let's start with number 5, Myles Garrett. This was a guy who last year was number 2 on the list. He won defensive player of the year, but ultimately I didn't feel like he was as good as I thought he would be. And that's just as crazy because of the fact that he won that defensive player of the year. I just think there are other guys on this list coming up that are just a little bit better. We know Garrett can not only rush the passer, we know he can bull rush. We know he's got those speed moves. We know he weighs 280 pounds. We know he's unblockable. No knock on his performance bumping him down to number 5, but I just think there are guys who are better. Number 4 is a bit controversial. I'm going to go with Joe Burrow in this spot. Listen, the fact that this guy has been so injured 2 out of the past, 4 years in his career, especially last year, leaves you wondering, why is this guy number 4? I think the talent is still there. I think we've seen with the smaller guys like Lamar Jackson, like Tua, they don't have the big time success in the playoff game. I like to see a guy like Joe Burrow in there. This is not necessarily on what he did last year, in which he was clearly hobbled, clearly injured, but how little we forget that 3 years ago, this guy came back from a 21-3 deficit on the road in Arrowhead and won a championship game to bring his Bengals to the Super Bowl. We also forget that the year later, he almost did it again. And I know almost doesn't count, but the Chiefs in that game, if you remember, pretty much got an extra down. I'd have to go back and look at all the specifics, but I'm sure all of you know what I'm talking about. Joe Burrow is a legit quarterback. He's got all the mobility. He can make all of the throws. I think he elevates the weapons that he has there. And I think we see a healthy season out of him. Joe Burrow, number 4 on the SchlossRant top 5 NFL players. Number 3, this guy was in the news today, Trent Williams. He's coming back. Listen, a guy this old holds out. Teams aren't going to always pay him, a la the Jets with Hassan Reddick. Do you think it's a coincidence that McCaffrey got better even at his advanced age going to the 49ers? Do you think it's a coincidence that Brock Purdy was the shoe-in for MVP up until that game against the Ravens last year? No, I don't think that's a coincidence even one bit. Even one bit. Go look at the numbers. I'm going to be honest. I didn't come prepared with those numbers, but go look at them. Trent Williams on the field versus Trent Williams off the field. I'm sure that you'll find that those numbers back up exactly what I'm saying about the dominance out of the left tackle for the San Francisco 49ers. Number 2, some of you are going to say that this is a homer pick. Why? Because he plays for the New York Football Giants. And I said that the team stinks, which we all know, but it's Dexter Lawrence. This one I did come with a lot of research here. Dexter Lawrence has put 81 pressures on quarterbacks in the past 2 seasons when lining up in that zero technique, head up on the center, or inside eye of that center. So either on the left or the right, in which, the eye matches up with the other eye on the opposing center. 81 of those pressures. Now, you might say pressures, those aren't sacks. Well, guess what the next nearest guy is at for the past 2 seasons when lining up at that true nose guard position, head up, or in that one technique inside eye? Next nearest guy is at 16. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Sacks, those numbers look great, whether it's Watt, whether it's Myles Garrett, whether it's the Bosa brothers. It's not all about sacks on the defensive line. It's about creating pressure, and it's about the fact that you get that pressure right in the face of the quarterback, and it's about the fact that you draw double teams so that your edge players, a la Thibodeau with the Giants, get those sacks. It's all started by Dexter Lawrence and his sheer dominance. This is a guy who, even at his 340-pound size, he does not need to come off the field clearly on passing downs. He's a 3-down player. He's big. He's dominant. He's immovable. He is the best player in the Giants by a mile. He's the second best player in the NFL. You could flip him and Williams. If you've been watching these SchlossRants, listening to these SchlossRants throughout the years with the NFL season preview, I love the defensive and offensive linemen in these spots in terms of the top 5 overall players. I think you want to, a top 5 list and you're giving out mostly quarterbacks, save that for ESPN, save that for other places. I like to go down in the trenches, find the guys that I think that are really dominant on the football field. Dexter Lawrence absolutely embodies that dominance. Number 1 is obvious. I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes. There's no doubt about it. One game for your life, stealing that line from the great Christopher Mad Dog Russo. There's no one else I'm picking. No, not Tom Brady. Let's go through the years in which Mahomes didn't win the Super Bowl since he's been Kansas City starter. 2018, if Dee Ford stays on sides, who knows? They probably beat the Rams. 2020, this is more of a sad reason, but Andy Reid's son, what happened off the field in which he, DUI, we don't want to get into that, before the Super Bowl. Maybe they're not distracted. Maybe they put together a better game plan for Mahomes. 2021, blowing a 21-3 lead to Burrow. No excuses. I'm not making those excuses. Burrow's legit. That's why he's number 4. Then you look at the past 2 years. Obviously, they win the Super Bowl. They won it also in 2019. Mahomes is already a Hall of Famer in my eye. He's already a top 3 to 4 quarterback. If you want to say that he's the number 1 quarterback to ever play in the NFL, I won't really argue with you there. He's getting close there. If he wins one more and he's the first guy to ever repeat, he can unseat Brady. I don't care that he lost to Brady in a Super Bowl. I don't care that he lost to Brady in an AFC championship game. I don't care that he'd still have 3 less Super Bowls than Brady. I don't care that he'd only have the Super Bowls with 1 team and Tom Brady has them with 2, 6 with 1 and 1 with the other with the Bucs. He goes to the number 1 player because it doesn't matter. Take away weapons, take away Tyreek Hill, they win 2 straight Super Bowls. Bring in new receivers, guys that can barely catch the ball, Kadarius Toney, win 2 Super Bowls. It doesn't matter. This guy's the best quarterback. He's the best player on the field. There's no one else I trust more in the NFL at their position than Patrick Mahomes. I know that's not a hot take in terms of right now, number one player. But again, these lists, I'm normally not leaning towards the quarterback. But with what Mahomes did last year, working in those new pieces towards the end of the year, winning the Super Bowl even after a subpar for him regular season, one game for your life. There's no one else I'm picking. That includes Tom Brady. So that rounds out the SchlossRant top 5 players. Again, Mahomes 1, Dexter Lawrence 2, Trent Williams 3, Joe Burrow 4, Myles Garrett number 5. All right, let's get into the under-overs, to use the old Mike Francesa voice. Under-over. All right, let's start off over 4.5, the New England Patriots. You're probably laughing at me saying, Patriots are going to be the worst team in the league. Yeah, they might. But if they win 5 games, that still connects. They got a rookie quarterback. They got a rookie coach, okay, to go along with that quarterback. I think that they have a reasonably good defense, and I think that from there, they're going to be able to win at least 5 games. I'm not saying this team's making the playoffs. I'm not saying this team's going to be good, but I think that 4.5 number in a 17-game season, they just have to go 5-12, and I think that that comes home. Now, I destroyed them earlier. Over 6.5 for the Giants. Again, I'm not saying they'll be good. This is kind of the theme for these first 3 picks that I'm going to give. I'm not saying they're going to be good. Dable is a decent enough coach to get them to 7 wins this year. Okay. I think if Jones can stay upright, they at least have a guy who can come close to winning 7, can get to those 7 games. He's won 9 games before. I'm not saying Jones is the future. He's clearly not. If I'm Dable, I'm running the guy into the ground. I'm giving him 10 design runs a game because that's the way that I got to win games. And Dable, after only winning 6 last year, and I know we think that, oh, wow, he was so successful in year 1, which he was. The Giants have been bad for 12, 13 years, but he won 9 games. It's not like he won 12 or 13. That seat will get a little warmer if he can't at least keep them in contention towards the last month of the year. Give me the Giants at over 6.5. Over 5.5 for the Denver Broncos. Really? You think Sean Payton can't win more than 5.5 games? You don't think he can get to 6? You know what his career numbers are with Drew Brees? 25-21 without him. 25-21. We don't think he can go 6-11? I think he can. I definitely think he can. Give me the Broncos over 5.5. Another over. Give me the Jaguars at over 8.5. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a make or break season. Not saying they're going to win 12 or 13 games. I think that the Jaguars are being downgraded because of the fact that they collapsed last year. This is a team that beat the Buffalo Bills on a neutral site in London, but they beat them still. They've got talent. The coaches won a Super Bowl, obviously. I think they can get to 9 wins. Next one, over 10, the New York Jets. Jets, Jets. This is the year Rodgers is going to be healthy. I think they're going to be able to win more than 10 games. I think they're going to do more than that, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Keep it simple. Jets have got talent all over the place. Sauce Gardner. They got Breece Hall. They got Garrett Wilson. They got Aaron Rodgers. That's enough for me. And Smith, the guy they bring in from the Cowboys, the left tackle, Tyron Smith. That was a guy who, if you've really listened to these SchlossRants throughout the year, I said he should have been the MVP of the league in 2016 because of the development of Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, who were both rookies that year. So give me the Jets at over 10 wins. Tyron Smith playing left tackle there. I think he's still got some ball left. We're going 5 overs, 2 unders. First under is the Texans. Outside of Mahomes, I don't think anyone has ever made the quarterback position look so easy on a year-to-year basis. I'm not saying Stroud's going to be bad. I'm not saying Stroud can't win a Super Bowl in the future, but I don't think that it's an automatic straight-up trajectory. I think you have to go through some ups and some downs to get there. Listen, even Tom Brady back in 2002 didn't win the division and missed out on the playoffs. So give me the Texans under 9.5. I'm not saying they can't win 9 games, still have a winning season, but give me under 9.5. The 49ers, under 11.5. 49ers are, they're going to make the playoffs. So I'm not saying they're going to be bad, but if they win 10 or 11, it's not necessarily a bad year. Shanahan has had, not great years before and still had success in the playoffs, a la that 2021 season in which they made it to the conference championship game and then came pretty close to going to the Super Bowl. So under 11.5 is not a stretch. Winning 10 or 11 is not a stretch. I think there's just too much distractions that occurred this past offseason with Trent Williams just getting brought back in, holding out, and plus the whole situation with Ayuk where he ends up coming back too. Again, pencil them in for the playoffs, but look at them to be somewhere around 10 or 11 wins, putting them under that 11 and a half mark. All right, now we're going to go with the divisions, the wild cards, and the Super Bowl. Again, SchlossRant number 66. This is not a drill. We are back in time, better than ever, to steal an old Mike and Mike phrase. I hate that phrase, but we're going to use it here, in time for the NFL season. AFC, let's start there. Division winners from the East. We just mentioned them earlier. Jets, 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 Jets. West, Chiefs. We're not wasting any time there. Jaguars, I think, take a big step up. Like I said, I think that they bring it home in the South. The Bengals, I think, win the North again. If Joe Burrow is not healthy, I don't look so good, but if he can be healthy, I think he's a great quarterback. I mentioned that there earlier by putting him in number 4. Wild card, give me the Chargers. We didn't talk about Harbaugh at all here. Harbaugh, people forget, he's got a pretty darn good winning percentage as the coach of an NFL team. His worst year was actually 2014, his last year with the 49ers, in which he went 8-8. It's a guy who's been to a Super Bowl. He had Colin Kaepernick as his quarterback, took him to a Super Bowl. Smith got to an NFC championship game. I know we're going back more than a decade ago, but if Kyle Williams, the punt returner, doesn't fumble the ball, the 49ers might go to the Super Bowl against the Patriots, in which the Giants went. If, he had Kaepernick down on the goal line area, first and goal, I think about this all the time. How you not run Colin Kaepernick 4 straight plays and try to get a touchdown with your best player at the time doing what they do best is beyond me, but they didn't make it. Kaepernick didn't get in the end zone. So, they got pretty close is what I'm trying to say here. Ravens obviously won that Super Bowl against his brother. Harbaugh is a good coach. Rowan Herbert, injuries should be subsided by the time we kick off this weekend. Give me the Chargers in one of the wild card spots. Bills are in the next wild card spot. Listen, their enemy is the Chiefs. They can't get by the Chiefs. Doesn't matter how big of a game that Josh Allen plays. It's just not going to happen, but they're good enough to win a wild card. Ravens, next wild card. The Ravens rarely have a bad year. Made it to an AFC championship game last year. Give me the Ravens for that wild card. So the Dolphins are the first team out. If I had to put in like a bonus team that's not making the playoffs, Dolphins are not going to be in there. Now, newcomers in that AFC, Jets, Bengals, Chargers. So we got 3 newcomers out of the 7 making the playoffs. Bengals came pretty close last year, but they did not make it. So those are the newcomers. In the NFC division, we're going with the Eagles. It's not because I live in the Philadelphia suburbs. It's just because they're a good team. Hurts will bounce back. He struggled towards the end of last year. Barkley should help them. Again, I'm not so bummed out as a Giant fan about losing Barkley. So give me the Eagles winning that NFC East. Lions winning the North. I think they keep building on what they've got. 49ers in the West. I like them in this spot again, 10 or 11 games, still making the playoffs. The South, I got to pick someone. I wanted to pick the Panthers just for fun, but then I was like, I didn't pick them for the overs. So I got to go ahead and just pick the Falcons to win the division. I'm trying to keep the under-overs consistent where it's like, before I'll give out an under-over and I'll say a team's going to win a division, but I don't give out their over and it's like 7.5 or 8.5. So we got to be consistent here. We're going with the Falcons to win the South. I don't love them. I think Cousins is good enough to get it done, though. Wild card, give me the Cowboys. I still think that they're pretty good. The Rams gave the Lions everything they could handle in that 1-point wild card weekend game last year. And then the Packers. So in terms of newcomers here, we just have the Falcons. I like to have more newcomers normally, but I just think some of the back end of this NFC just isn't very good. I couldn't quite get there with the Arizona Cardinals. You like that they're going to continue to have Kyler Murray healthy this season. I couldn't get there with the Giants or the Commanders, although you could make an argument that if Jaden Daniels is a star, there's no reason why they can't make the wild card, but I'm just not fully convinced. I'm not going there with the Bears. I'm not buying into the hype. I'm not willing to say like under or over a certain number for them, but I just think that who do you want, Caleb Williams or Matthew Stafford? Matthew Stafford. Who do you want, Jordan Love or Caleb Williams? I want Jordan Love. He at least has a little bit more of a body of work. So there's just no other teams I could get there. Seahawks with the first-year head coach. I mean, maybe they get that bump and get back into the playoffs. They were a surprise team, much like the Giants 2 years ago, but I couldn't quite get there for them either. And there was no way I was picking the Saints. Dennis Allen's just not a good enough coach. Carr is just mediocre. And I know they won 9 games last year. They weren't a dumpster fire by any stretch. I just don't think they're any good, though. Now, the Super Bowl pick. This one's a little crazy. All right. Give me the New York Jets from the AFC. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles from the NFC. I mean, this is how you know I'm not a homer. I am a fan of the New York Football Giants, and I just picked our co-tenant and the Eagles, one of our biggest rivals and the team that is geographically closest to us, and also the team geographically closest to where I live. The Jets are winning the Super Bowl. It's been long enough for Joe Beningo, for Adam Sandler, for Mike Greenberg, for Rich Eisen, for any of these other big time Jet fans out there. This is your time. You're winning the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is going to try to do something that only Peyton Manning has done, which is be the winning quarterback for 2 different teams in a Super Bowl. I think that if Rodgers does this, it significantly elevates his career as the guy to be able to do it with the Jets. He'll be an even bigger star than he ever was with Green Bay. I think this is the year. Jets, Jets in the Super Bowl. And if you want that, I think it's like plus 12,000 on FanDuel right now. New York Jets, your Super Bowl champions come February of 2025. That is the SchlossRant NFL season preview. We're not going anywhere, though. We've got a bunch of other segments here coming up. New York/New Jersey top 15 athletes. We're going to talk about Aaron Judge's dominance. We're going to talk about A-Rod. Does he deserve to be in Monument Park? Joey Votto's Hall of Fame case. Some of these topics are a little old. And then I got a little topic idea from the great Bill Simmons about sports franchise tiers. I've got 4 tiers that I'd like to go through and kind of discuss that. And we're even going to hit on UConn to the Big 12 because why not? Arizona made their debut in the Big 12. And of course, their receiver, he puts up over 300 yards receiving. Number 2 all time in the Big 12 for a single season. Arizona's been in the conference for 1 week. Putting up big numbers. All right. Let's talk about the New York, New Jersey top 15 athletes. I stole this topic from the great John Jastrzemski of the New York podcast. Let's break it down. We're going to start with number 15. Number 15, we got Breece Hall, the running back for the Jets. This guy can do a little bit of everything, catches the ball out of the backfield. He can run the ball, does a good job with both. Didn't matter that his quarterback selection was bad last year. Pete Alonso was number 14. This is just a consistent power hitter. You kind of have to throw him in the mix here. Next one at number 13 is Panarin, the goal scorer for the New York Rangers. Number 12, Francisco Lindor. He's having a dominant season. I like that he plays. I like that he switch hits. I like that for a shortstop, he gets some power for sure. Number 11 is Julius Randle. I wanted to put Randle a little bit higher on the list. Had this been 16, 18 months ago, he definitely would have been a little bit higher, but he gets thrown down a little bit coming off the injuries. We know what he can do, though. This is a guy at his best can be 25, 10, and 5. He can shoot 40% from 3, he can shoot 50% from the floor, and he can shoot 80% from the line. Number 10 is Jack Hughes. I almost said Phil Hughes, the former Yankee pitcher, but Jack Hughes is a dominant skater for the New Jersey Devils, a centerman. He scores goals. He passes the puck. He's young. He's still getting better. He's got his little brother on the team with him too, anchoring, that blue line for the Devils. And I think Luke Hughes is a little bit more of a goal scorer than I care for from the Devils defenseman, but that's neither here nor there. Jack Hughes for my New Jersey Devils, number 10. Number 9 is Garrett Wilson. Again, he's there because of the bad quarterbacks with the Jets last year. He still put up dominant numbers. Number 8 is Aaron Rodgers. Again, I think the Jets are winning the Super Bowl this year. He's got to be number 8 on that list. The only Jet that's better than him is number 7, Sauce Gardner. This is a guy who's kind of turning himself into a little mini Darrelle Revis in terms of teams not throwing the ball towards his side of the field, so stats are kind of irrelevant here. Number 6 is Shesterkin for the Rangers, the goalie. Thought he was dominant in the postseason at times last year until he got to the Panthers, but this is a guy who's great in net. I am partial to the netminder, whether it be Martin Brodeur, even Lundqvist, who played for the Rangers. I despise the Rangers, as everyone knows, but I'm partial to a dominant goaltender, so I put him there at number 6. Number 5 is Dexter Lawrence. We already covered his dominance. Again, it's not about the numbers with him. It's about the fact that he can draw double teams. He can stay on the field for all 3 downs, and he's absolutely dominant. Number 4, Garrett Cole. He's been nothing but great for the Yankees. You can't really argue with him there. Number 3 is Juan Soto. Soto would probably be number 1 if Aaron Judge wasn't there. this is a guy the Yankees bring in. He might only be here for 1 year. I hope he's not. It's going to be tough to leave if the Yankees win the World Series. I can't see him turning down the money that the Yankees would offer because I think that the Yankees would know they can't leave Judge by himself. Number two is Big Body Brunson. I love that name from Kendrick Perkins. This is a guy who's, changed the entire outlook of the franchise. Julius Randle started it. Brunson's continued it. He's a leader. The fact that he, turned down all that money, 113 million left on the table, which was really part of an extra year, so it wasn't as much, but he did turn down that much guaranteed. Love what Brunson does. It's not just the fact that he's a point guard. It's not just the fact that he scores the ball. He does it with efficient shooting. Shot over 40% from three last year, shot 48% from the floor. The numbers weren't as great come postseason time in terms of efficiency, but this was still a guy who had a stretch that was only matched by Michael Jordan in the playoffs, in which he scored, 39 points or more for like 5 straight games. He's dominant, absolutely dominant and a leader. Any other time, he'd be number one, but number one is Aaron Judge. Okay. And this segues us to this segment about Aaron Judge's dominance. Some of these numbers are a little bit old, but Aaron Judge, the best 91 game stretch in terms of weighted runs created plus, that's an analytics stat. He was at 266 for that number. Barry Bonds, let me just read you 01, 02, 03, 04. Bonds in that same time period over any, the best 91 game stretch, 237 in 01, 245 in 02, 229 in 03, and in 04, 243. So Aaron Judge over a 91 game stretch this season was better than Barry Bonds ever was in terms of weighted runs created plus. At one point, the league OPS was 714. Judge was slugging 722. I mean, you talk about a 100-game stretch, 40 homers and a 370 average. Only he's been the only one to ever do that in baseball. 389 average in August, in which he slugged 858. I mean, I could read these numbers forever. And again, some of them might be a couple weeks old, but you get the idea. He's dominant. He's the best athlete in New York or New Jersey. I think he might be the best athlete in all four of the sports in terms of the numbers he's putting up because, there's been guys on the football field, they put up big numbers, whether it be Justin Jefferson, but then you look at Jamar Chase putting up numbers almost as good. You look at Tyreek Hill. The numbers that Judge is putting up, you got to go to Barry Bonds, steroids. You got to go to Babe Ruth, best baseball player in the history of baseball, to even come close to that. And Judge is kind of, neck and neck with them. Not in every category. And throw in the fact that he plays center field at 6'7", 285. It's a guy who's a natural right fielder who, for the sake of the team, moved over to center field. I'm not going to tell you he's the world's best center fielder. I'm not telling you he's Mantle. I'm not telling you he's DiMaggio. I'm not telling you he's Willie Mays. But he's an acceptable center fielder. He can make all the plays you need him to make and more. And he's a good athlete. Let's not forget. This guy was recruited for Division I for football. Let's not forget, this guy averaged like 18 or 19 points a game on the basketball court his senior year of high school. He probably could have played in Europe in basketball if he wanted. He's probably that good. All right, now, another Yankees topic. Old Timers Day was a week ago Saturday, so 9-10 days ago, whenever you're watching this. Topic of Alex Rodriguez to Monument Park came to my mind. Listen, they've got all these guys in Monument Park. If you don't want to retire his number, that's kind of a separate thing. You don't have to, but the Yankees don't win the 2009 World Series title without him. I get it. He sued the team. I get it. He was on that, steroid list and he sat out for a year or got suspended, I should say, in 2014. I get all that. He ran into Mike Francesa's studio with his lawyer, talking all this nonsense about the Yankees. I get it. I understand. But you don't have your most recent World Series title without him. Guy won multiple MVPs for the Yankees. I know, steroids, but he was dominant. Give the guy a plaque in Monument Park, all right? It's not going to kill you. Another thing, baseball related. This is a couple weeks ago already, but the Angels extended their GM. The Angels are absolutely the definition of mediocre to below average. This is a team that consistently wins like 72 to 78 games. They're awful. Artie Moreno, fellow Arizona alum. How do you continue to bring back mediocrity and say that he's done a good job in laying a foundation? Your fans should just be absolutely disgraced that this is the product that you continue to put on the field and you justify it by extending the GM. That stadium is just an absolute dump. Dump. Carl's Jr. is the best food you can get out there. And ask me how I know. I've been out there a dozen times for Yankee games throughout the years. I know I'm back on the East Coast now, but back in Arizona, you take the drive 6.5, 7 hours. You stay overnight, or you go down to San Diego. You go see the Yankees for a couple of days. That place is a dump. Moreno's running the franchise into the ground. He can't decide if he wants to sell or not sell. I get it. He had a World Series title under his belt in '02. And the Angels were once the team that actually, the only team that Joe Torre during his Yankee tenure had a losing record against was the Angels. But the past, 20 or so years, 15 or so years, the team's just been mediocre. The fact that Mike Trout, A, can't stay healthy, but B, has only played in 3 playoff games, you're wasting him away. So you can't extend the GM in that spot. I'm not going to scream and go too crazy about it, but I think it needs to be talked about. All right, let's do UConn to the Big 12. This was kind of buzzing on social media. Here's where I'm at with UConn to the Big 12. I'm kind of conflicted, but we're going to play both sides of the coin, and then we're going to take a side. Starbucks doesn't do ice cream. All right, that's where I stand. If you're UConn, you are the number one basketball school in the country. I'm not just saying that because I'm in the Northeast. I'm not just saying that because I've seen UConn a couple times in person throughout the country. I'm saying that because basketball is where you're at in the Big East, and that's what the Big East does is they do basketball. All right, stay put. Yes, there's greener pastures to go join the Big 12. Yes, that would be a heck of a conference with UConn, Kansas, and Arizona all in the Big 12. But those rivalries and that nostalgia, I still think has a place in sports. I still think that seeing UConn playing Villanova, seeing UConn against St. John's, Seton Hall in basketball, I still think that that means something. And your football team really is not noteworthy for anyone other than Dan Orlovsky running out of the back of the end zone as a member of the '08 Lions. You're not ever going to be a football school. And I understand that the revenue from the TV side of things is going to be tripled. It's tough to lay off. I think they'd go from 9 million to 30 million, so more than tripled. But Starbucks doesn't do ice cream. McDonald's doesn't do tacos. UConn is basketball. Basketball is the Big East. Stay put. All right, now let's get into, and again, this is a topic from the great Bill Simmons, sports franchise tiers. This does not mean the most winningest franchise. This does not mean the most valuable franchise. But the way that he was breaking it down was just kind of like, wow, if this team was for sale, that would be amazing to buy them because they're so famous or they have such a winning tradition. So let's break this down. Tier one, and we're going to go Mount Rushmore for tier one, so four. I got the Yankees, the Celtics, the Lakers, the Red Sox. I can't put a football team here because I think the NFL is successful and the NFL is so popular because of the league, because of what the great Wellington Mara was willing to do in terms of sacrificing TV money by making it equal for all of the owners. So that if you're in Buffalo or if you're in Green Bay, there's no difference at all. Celtics, it's hard to argue the dominance throughout the years. They won the title this year. They actually are for sale. That's probably where Bill Simmons got the argument. Lakers, I mean, there's only one Lakers. There's only one crypto.com arena. It doesn't sound as good as the old Forum or even as good as Staples sounded because I think that just became so accepted. Red Sox, I mean, there's just so much tradition there. The past 20 years or so, they've been great. Obviously, '04, '07, '13, '18 pains me as a Yankee fan. Tier two is the Dodgers, the Cowboys, the New York football Giants, the New York Knicks, the Green Bay Packers, and the 49ers. So we're going from 4 to 6. Dodgers just have so much history, so many great players. Koufax, Kershaw, Jackie Robinson, list goes on and on. Cowboys, I mean, this is the first spot I'd put a football team. Cowboys Stadium, the Cowboys America's team, there's a certain cachet. The Giants have been in the league forever, 8 NFL titles for them counting in terms of the Super Bowl. I just think the fact that it's football, it's the biggest market, the most popular team in the market. The Knicks are not the best team. Far from it. Championships in 1970, 1973. The Knicks are on the upswing, of course, with Brunson, the Villanova boys, and Randall. I just think there's so much cachet with the Garden, and that's what gets it done. The Packers. Here we go. It's not about markets. As the Packers are in a small town of Green Bay, but I think when you talk about the NFL, the Packers have to be one of the franchise. This is the franchise of Lombardi, of Favre, of Bart Starr. I think they got to be in tier two. 49ers, they've been pretty good recently, knocking on the door. Montana, Rice, Steve Young, just those helmets and the uniforms, just perfect in a really big and wealthy area. Santa Clara, formerly San Francisco. 49ers make tier number two. Next one. We got the Eagles, the Cubs, the Raiders, the Warriors, the Chiefs, the New York Rangers, the San Francisco Giants, and the New York Jets. So the Eagles, I mean, the fan base here is just ridiculous. Everyone knows that. That's why they're in tier three for me. It's not that they're the most successful team. You talk about winning the Super Bowl in 2017. You talk about 1960, I believe before then, was it Norm Van Brocklin or whoever, Van Buren, whoever the quarterback was, number 60. I can't think of his name. The Cubs, Wrigley Field. I mean, that's just a cool scenario. Finally breaking the curse in 2016. Not as good right now, but I think the Cubs and Wrigley Field hold something in a pretty big size media market. The Raiders, it doesn't matter whether they're in Oakland, Los Angeles, Las Vegas. The Raiders, black and silver, just to me, just like screams cool. So I think that owning them would be pretty cool. Golden State Warriors, just because at a certain point when you have as much success as they do, especially recent success, past 10 years or so, you belong on that list. Kansas City Chiefs, again, the recency, they were an original AFL team. Great uniforms that have stood the test of time, them and the Raiders, quite frankly. Next one is the New York Rangers, the first hockey team to appear on this list. Again, even as a Devil fan, I think there's definitely something to playing your games in the Garden in front of celebrities, whether it be John McEnroe, whether it be Ben Stiller, Tracy Morgan. These are all Knicks guys too, but I'm sure that they're there as well. San Francisco Giants, I mean, they are one of the original baseball teams, got great history from New York to San Francisco. Past 15 years, they got 3 World Series titles, so they belong there. The Jets, again, I picked them to win the Super Bowl this year, and I think that they just have such a diehard, starved fan base. I got to put them in that third tier as well. Tier 4, and then we'll be done here. The Red Wings, Blackhawks, Patriots, Canadians, Maple Leafs, Bruins, Broncos, Bulls, Mets, Browns. Red Wings and Blackhawks, they are hockey, original 6. Patriots had so much success with Tom Brady, it's hard not to put them there. Canadians, Maple Leafs, again, original 6. Bruins, original 6. We already talked about the Rangers, but they're on the tier above. The Broncos, I just think that the fact that there's not much else in that section of the country and the Broncos being in the NFL, I think that John Elway to even Peyton Manning, you've got big names who played there and won Super Bowls. So I think that they belong on that list. And then the Bulls, Michael Jordan, say no more. The Mets, again, it's kind of I said I don't want to make it all about market size, but I think that the Mets have a lot of famous fans, Jerry Seinfeld, Kevin James. I think they belong on tier 4. And then the Cleveland Browns. This is a team that has one of the most rabid fan bases in the country. So SchlossRant is back. This is not a drill. I've got a story to tell. SchlossRant number 66. We'll see you throughout the year with the NFL picks. There's no doubt about it. All right, we'll talk later, everyone. SchlossRant out.